Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Ryan, back with another podcast. I got my buddy Alex here. What's up, dude?
Hey, what's up, Ryan? Thanks for having me here, man.
Yeah, man, no problem. Your self-description is a lifelong learner, musician, and a sound technician who decided to pursue a computer science degree to create music software for the music industry. That is the best intro I've ever read, and I definitely want you to write mine if I have to write like a intro on a resume or something. But no, that's awesome. And anybody that wants to get in touch with them, his Instagram is at alex.castro.101 on Instagram. What's up, dude? How you been?
Yeah, man. Well, man, that's quite an introduction, Thanks for that. And I've been very well and very excited here to share my story.
Yeah, man. You got an interesting one.
With the podcast. And this is my first podcast here sharing my thoughts. So,
oh, really?
Yeah. So it's
awesome.
I'm glad to be the first experience that I'll be, actually in a physical podcast sharing my experience here with
man.
you. So
awesome stuff. So you didn't sleep well last night either?
No, I
we
didn't.
We both slept horrible last night. I don't know what it was, but you said like 4 a.m.
I went to bed at 4 a.m. and I was finally able to sleep.
How long did you sleep?
I slept until 11 a.m. So I did get some good hours of sleep. However, I was battling with a little bit of a cold and coughing. So I finally decided to drink this a fluid which was supposed to help me relieve my cough and help me go to sleep. But eventually I took that medicine and then I was able to leave. But I was hesitant to take it because
for real?
Yeah. But anyways, I was able to sleep and got some good rest. And I'm here, man.
That's awesome. I went to bed at like probably 1 or 2.
Really?
And dude, I was just laying there at probably like 10:30, and I don't know why, just something in my mind was like, man, some candy would be good right now. I don't know why, but I went downstairs, ate a bunch of candy, had some chips, and then I really couldn't sleep because of the sugar and stuff. But looked in the mirror this morning, I was like, man, I got some bags. But oh well. Dude, I've known you for a while, and I didn't know that you originally dropped out of high school quite some time ago. Why did you drop out of high school? Was it, were you with the wrong crowd, or was it just not your thing?
Yeah, man. At that time in 2006, when I was 16 years old, I decided to drop out of high school because it was the legal age to drop out of high school.
So you were kind of looking forward to it?
Yeah, I was
beforehand?
looking forward when I turned 16 to drop out of high school. One, because I always fought with my brother at home. I always have to leave the house because we never got along well. Today, we're good friends. And however, so I was also, leveling myself with low-level people, and I was on the wrong direction. So that made me drop out of high school because, I didn't. My parents never, motivated me to keep studying. But I know there's not their fault. However, I, was not very interested in, studying and doing the homework. I wanted to
pain.
I wanted to be more. I wanted to play and enjoy life and hang out with friends. So that was my my motivation at that time. And when I turned 16, I dropped out of high school.
So it was kind of a combination of both things. You were kind of rolling with the wrong crowd in a way, and you were kind of like, this is not for me in the first place. So just up and did it. I think every 16-year-old wants to drop out of high school. At least I did. But yeah, man. But you went back to school eventually. You want to talk a little bit about what made you second guess doing the homework and wanting to do the homework and coursework and stuff?
Yeah, so what made me do the decision to go back to school was because I decided to level myself up with high level people. And in 2009 I started working as a live sound technician, and with my friend Wellington, and he also was my music teacher. So I started learning music with him and learning sound technician. And since he was, had 2 degrees, and a music degree and electrical engineering degree.
Oh, wow.
He, motivated me to study. And I also had a friend who, from the YMCA, where I used to go swimming. His name is Ovi. Ovi is also an engineer, and he also motivated me to study. And there were 2 other people, which is my mom clients, which they're both engineers, and one of them is a capital investor. Offered to invest in me so I could go back and pursue my education. So, there were 3 factors that helped me, go back to school. And, all I had to do is commit to studying, which means not working full time. That was the biggest opportunity cost for me to go back to college.
Not having that money.
Not having that money, that job, and, not working as a full-time person, and just go there and study.
That's awesome, man. So I definitely want to talk a little bit about a lot of people want to do what you did in a way. And what I mean by that is start by going to community college, because it's much cheaper and you can bang out a lot of, like the English classes and the stuff that's not in your core curriculum. It's much cheaper. It's much smarter to do it that way. But we've talked about this before. There's some opportunity costs. And what I mean by that is, you went to Mass Bay, right?
Correct.
And you took a course, let's say in computer science, and it was in one language. But when you transferred and went to Umass Lowell, that course that was used for a prerequisite, the future course you're going to take is in a different language than that prerequisite course. So, people think it's just going to be very easy to transition from a community college to, a 4-year university. You want to talk a little bit, are there any other challenges that people don't really know about, or?
Well, I want to talk about first the challenge of, entering college after you, was out for school for 8 years. Then I want to talk about the transition from community college to a university.
Perfect.
So let's start with the, transition from a dropout of high school, and then going to a community college. So first of all, I had to do all the prerequisites of English and math. English, I was more comfortable with. I had to read and write a lot, so I was okay with that because I was always using my English throughout the journey when I stopped going back to school. So I was speaking English okay. I'm not the best speaker, but I was practicing. Now the math where the problem was, because before I started college, I forgot how to do long division. And for a computer science degree, when you first look at the curriculum, it's calculus 1 in the first semester. So you're looking at a high level math just to begin. And for someone who forgot how to do long division, that was, how are you going to be back?
And people don't understand that, you're not allowed to use a calculator at our university in Calc 1 and 2, at least. No calculator whatsoever. So
exactly,
I don't want anybody out there saying plug it into a computer. You are not allowed to until Calc 3. You can start using a calculator, but
you know how it is because you've been there. The procedure. Now, so what I did was I decided to take some math classes with Wellington, which is my music teacher, and with the person that I work as a live sound technician.
Oh wow!
So I would work with him in math for 2 hours, this doing elementary math, arithmetic, and then moving to some algebra. And then I would exchange those hours that I was working with him in landscaping hours at his house. So I would clean his yard for 4 hours, and then I would get together with him during the week, and he would teach me math.
Wow.
And I would take it home, practice, and I did this for weeks until I got into a program at Mass Bay to level up my placement of math. So, and then I did that program, which also helped me boost my math. So, and then just I want to give a context about this program. It was a 1 week program where I will sit every day in school at Mass Bay, and they will review me some math.
Oh, wow.
So I did that for a week, which helped me. And then 2 weeks before I started Mass Bay in 2016, I got into this program called STEM Started Academy at Mass Bay. So they offered students, hey, we're gonna show you around about STEM field. We're gonna share this with you. We're also gonna prepare you with math, so you can advance some classes. So before starting Mass Bay, I also took that program where I was able to, going from not knowing, long division to get placed into pre-calculus. So that was a big jump, and I saved a lot of money and time. So all I had to do in the first semester was jump into pre-calculus, and then on my second semester, I was right into Calc 1, which is the starting curriculum for a computer science degree.
That's awesome. To go from not knowing how to do long division and Calculus 1, like, it's not easy stuff, right? Yeah. And so congrats to you for doing that. That's awesome, man.
Well, thanks, man.
So you're at Mass Bay doing your courses and stuff. Why Umass Lowell?
Yeah, so then when I was at Mass Bay, I, of course, went through all, the curriculum and the discipline of, commuting every day to Mass Bay, which was only a 20-minute drive from Framingham to Wellesley. And I decided that I needed to transfer because Mass Bay is only a 2-year program. And I decided to choose Umass Lowell because Umass Lowell was big on C++. And C++ was a language that I wanted to learn because, the music software is mostly created in C and C++. So that motivated me to go and pursue Umass Lowell. Also because they had the sound technology department at Umass Lowell. So I thought it was a big opportunity. As well as I had scholarships from Mass Bay to Umass Lowell. I had 3 scholarships. I had the merit scholarship because I graduated with the 3.7 GPA from Mass Bay.
Congrats,
and
dude.
I had thank you. And I have the Phi Theta Kappa scholarship, and as well as the mass transfer scholarship. So Umass Lowell was a great fit for me. However, I had to commute to the driving to the community.
A long commute for you, right?
1 hour to go, 1 hour to come back. So 2 hours total every day, Monday through Friday. And so that was the transition. So that's how I decided to go to Umass Lowell. And I want to talk about the transition from a community college to a university because the transition was difficult for me. I remember when I transferred to Umass Lowell, that was in January 2019.
Man, time goes by, man.
Yeah, exactly. So on my first semester at Umass Lowell, right there, I lost my 2 scholarships. Well, I lost 3 of them, but I was able to get one back. I lost my merit scholarship because I transferred a good GPA, and I lost the Phi Theta Kappa scholarship. However, because I lost the scholarship because I failed one course and I dropped out of one course. And that was due to the commute. That was due to the standards of the university. They were the material was much more difficult, and then the community college, So for me, that was a huge impact and was a big setback for me, and I was able to fight through.
And a lot of that is not all your fault. It's some of it is the professors. I know the course that we had in logic design, won't say any names, but the material wasn't too bad. It's the way the material was being explained to us, even when, like, at least once a week, you and I would be at their office hours, right? Asking questions on so for people who don't know how this class was structured, no homework, no quizzes. It's all test grades and labs, right? And I forget the split between the labs and the test grades. Attendance was like 5% too, or something.
Right.
Like that.
Yeah. She took attendance for.
But if you're not disciplined, right? We were talking to that one guy, and we were saying, "Man, this course is demanding." He's like, "What? No, this course isn't demanding. That's because we were putting in the work." And he was, you didn't have to put in the work. Now the course is different. Now they do have homework and quizzes, from what I hear. But when we were doing that, like, I remember how, I don't remember exactly how the solutions were posted. They were like horrible, right? There was no step-by-step walkthrough either, and limited office hours, and a lot of problems,
Yeah, we had. I personally, when I was taking logic design my first semester, along with the two courses that I had to give up, such as I failed probability and stats, and I had to drop out of discrete mathematics. So there was two math courses that I bombed in the first semester. But coming back to logic design, the material the documentation was very sparse. We're using an online book that was provided by the professors.
It was free.
It was free, which was nice. However, I relied a lot of other sources to make
Zahi
it.
Haddad. Man, that guy has saved your life.
Remember, man. But man, I had so much fun on that course. I don't know why. Well, I know why. It was because it was logic. I think, I'm fascinated by logic. It's like, it's either yes or no. 1 or 0. Black or white. Yeah? You can't be in the middle.
When you told me that, I started dying laughing. So Alex and I were talking a while ago, and we were struggling on something, and he was like, "You know what, man? It's easy. It's 0 or 1, true or false, black or white. I mean, this course is easy. We got it."
Yeah.
I'm just dying laughing because we have no idea what's going on. Like you said, the book, the way it was written, not sure what was going on there. The homework solutions, little iffy at some places, and there was a lot of homework problems. But hey, we got through it.
Yeah, I remember I found a mistake on the book, and then I battled like for an hour. It's like, man, I have the right solution, but the book had a different solution. And I remember I think we both went to the office hours and was like, hey, can we go over this? And then we realized that the book had the wrong solution, and we had the right solution, but at least we were able to figure out. And that was a great sense of accomplishment that we were, doing the hard work to get the solution right and understanding the material, So,
and yeah, for those who don't know what logic design is, it's basically like an intro to digital systems and stuff like that. How different, like the JK flip-flop, and how would you describe what logic design really is? Like, I know what we did, but if you had to describe it in layman's terms.
Well, logic design, it's a study of digital circuits, right? It's the building blocks of circuitry, right? And you are designing gates for logic purpose, right? For computing systems, and then there's a combinational circuits and sequential circuits. So the class is divided into those types of two circuits. And for me, logic, in terms of the logic, is like the rule of Aristotle of the exclusive middle. It's either true or false. You can't be in the middle. So logic design is a course that it is, like I said, involves circuitry, and it's a course that it's used in computers, and it's the building blocks of computing systems.
Yeah,
right?
So you start out with simple things like how does a computer do addition and subtraction just by using zeros and ones, and multiplication and division just by, later on, I don't know if the computer science degree went into assembly language programming. Did you guys do assembly?
I did assembly language at Mass Bay Community College, and I did computer architecture at Umass Lowell. So when I got to Umass Lowell, I didn't have to take assembly language because I already took assembly language at Mass Bay.
Yeah. So I think it's really cool to learn the lower level languages to really understand what's going on. Like how does a computer do a multiplication just with zeros and ones, right?
Exactly.
But anyways, as you were saying, so your transition into UMass Lowell, having a little bit of trouble with some courses. You ended up doing well in logic design, right?
Yeah, in fact, in the first semester, I did very well in logic design. I did very well, just like you did as well.
Oh yeah, dude, we were a team on that.
Yeah,
we were a team on that.
Exactly. But I don't know what I'm trying to remember which was the other course that I took that semester.
Discrete.
Discrete 2, because I got Discrete 1 at Mass Bay, but I wish I didn't get credit for Discrete 1 from Mass Bay.
Why?
Because it would have been a smoother transition from Discrete 1 to Discrete 2 from UMass Lowell, because the way they teach is totally different from the Discrete 1 from Mass Bay. And that was one reason why I think I failed Discrete 2, because I wasn't ready with the teaching methods from UMass Lowell. But I can't remember on top of my head right now the other course that I was taking besides probability and stats, Discrete 2, and logic design. And for me, it was very difficult. And like I said, it was a big setback for dropping one course and failing one course and losing 3 scholarships. So that was around, I'm going to say, $3,000 per semester.
Wow.
Around $3,000, $3,500 per semester that you would lose. And luckily, I was able to fight back with the financial director from the financial aid department from UMass Lowell.
Oh, really?
Because I also lost the mass transfer scholarship. And then I found some documentation online that I could prove that I was still eligible for that scholarship.
No way.
Yeah, so I was able to prove that and then still get it for another 4 semesters.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
man.
so I was very happy that I got at least that scholarship under control.
That's awesome. So you were working at TD Bank for a while, right?
Yeah, I work at TD Bank for sure.
So you're commuting an hour each way, right? And then doing all the coursework and stuff and classes. And then on the weekends, you're at TD Bank. How did you manage all that? It seems like a lot.
So I was working at TD Bank at the time that I started college, right, in 2016. And then even after I transferred to UMass Lowell in 2019, I was still working at TD Bank. So basically, I work at TD Bank for 4 years, every week, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Man.
And I used to study during the week. So Monday through Friday, I used to drive to UMass Lowell and study. And then on Fridays was the worst because I had to drive during traffic to come back to TD Bank. So on Fridays, I went to school all dressed up for work. And then,
yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I was always in a dressed with a nice shoe and a shirt and a tie. I mean, I liked it. To be dressed.
Yeah.
It's like formal Fridays,
Formal
as they
Fridays,
say.
Yeah.
But man, it was every Friday I even got depressed sometimes because when it's like Monday. When you have the weekend off and then Monday you have to go back to work or school, you can a lot of people can have that feeling of depression and pressure because you have to go back to work or school. And for me, weekends were like that. I
had to go back to work.
I had to go back to work on top of the workload that I had built up from the week.
And it's a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Science, yeah.
Yeah, so it was a lot of work. I would just push through, and, work on I only work 15 hours during the weekend, but it was enough to keep me busy and tired, to still do homework.
Yeah, that's crazy. I don't know how you did it, but hey, man, you just recently graduated. How does it feel?
Well, it feels great, man. It feels great to be graduated. from Mass Bay and UMass Lowell, and I had a chance to have 2 graduations.
That's awesome. A lot of cake.
Yeah, a lot of cake, a lot of champagne, a lot of celebrations. So, so it's nice to have 2 graduations. And now that I'm graduated, I'm gonna treat myself with a nice vacation, and I'm going to take a road trip to Grand Teton National Park, Yellowstone National Park, and if time permits, I'm gonna go take another drive up to Glacier National Park. So
where are these places? They sound familiar.
Yeah, the Grand Teton and Yellowstone, they are in Wyoming, and Glacier National Park is in Montana.
Wow. You're going to drive?
Yeah.
Man, I got to say something. I don't know how you do it. So I remember when we were in college, something would happen with your car, right?
Yeah.
And you just go to the store, pick up a part and fix it up. And then you do the same with your computer.
Exactly.
You're like, oh man, my computer broke. Let me take the thing apart, see what's wrong with it, and fix it. I don't think you understand. That's a pretty rare skill.
Yeah. Well, to
have.
Yeah, I'm a software guy, but I also I'm good with my hands. So as much as I like to write software, I also like to play with my hands. So fixing cars, fixing computers, it's always on me. In fact, I'm a live sound technician, so I'm always turning knobs, also mixing. I'm using my hands and the brain, so it's that connection. Now, for those of you who don't know, I drive a 1999 Honda Civic that has 300,000 miles on it. So I always have some heating problems and cooling problems with the car. And I've got to a point that I drove to Umass Lowell and the car overheated, and I had to drive to the parts store and buy parts and go to the mechanic and fix it before I can drive back home. So there's always that challenges, when you don't make a lot of money, you don't have, financial help from your parents, maybe to help you buy a car, or the biggest opportunity. I cannot make money. I have to study. So I drive the car that I don't have a car payment. So
right, you own it. Yeah,
I own it. So all I have to do is pay the expenses. So those are the challenges that I face while commuting to school. And since I fixed the car myself, along with my friends' mechanics. And I was able to get through and drive every day to school.
That's awesome. So what made you want to go so far out west? Did you see these places online and you were like, man, I have to go visit them or something like that? Or
yeah, so I am a very connected person with nature. So nature is something that inspires me and really connects me with the world. And I never been to a national park. I've been to a lot of state parks, but I actually never have a chance to go to a national park. So I've always dreamed to go. And going out west into Grand Teton and Yellowstone, I can do 2 national parks at one go because they're so close to each other. And also in Glacier National Park is only 7 hours away from Yellowstone. So I can technically do 3 national parks there in one go. Not saying that you can do in other parts of the country,
right?
But there are there are a lot of places out there like mountains and rivers, and there's the geothermal activity in Yellowstone. That's like there's pretty much a volcano underneath.
Wow.
They can erupt anytime. But
really?
Yeah, but they can predict when it's going to erupt. But yeah, technically that volcano can erupt anytime and burn a lot of things, and just go, erupt and go wild. Right.
So you're going to, how long is that going to take you? You're taking the Honda Civic?
So initially I was going to take the Honda Civic. However, I found a buddy who has a van, and we're going to go with his van.
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
So,
he's going with you?
Yeah, he's coming with me. So
that's awesome.
So I found a buddy who was going with me. But initially I was going to take, I was going to go alone, and I'm going to take the Honda Civic with me. And if I had a cooling problem, I'd just stop and then fix it and hit the road. The worst that could happen is that if I would take my Honda Civic is that I had to sell the car, take my luggage and rent a car and continue on,
Yeah, man, you're just rolling with the punches.
That's right.
That's crazy. No, in a good way. So what's your plan? You're just gonna drive straight out, or you're gonna take a break halfway or something like that?
Well, I plan to leave very early in the morning and, just hit the road and drive as much as I can. And eventually I'll stop and get some rest and continue on. But it's a 36-hour drive. So
Yeah, so no way you could do that in one run.
yeah, it's difficult unless you're not sleeping. You're just,
Switching off.
Yeah, switching
or
off.
something like
Yeah.
that. Man, that's crazy. But yeah, it's gonna make for a lot of great pictures. Are you into photography and stuff?
Yeah, I'm into photography. I'm into video making. So, I want to create some video shots and edit and have fun while enjoying
Yeah.
nature and put some content out there to people see, create some nice videos. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Dude, that's awesome. I didn't know you were gonna do that. But yeah, I think that's really cool that, you connect with nature. It seems like more than most people, but you found your passion and you're going for it. And any challenge that comes up, it's just like you're kind of like accepted that it's going to happen, and you're not going to complain about it. Just keep going.
It's always about solving problems, right? Whenever you encounter a problem, you can be with anything, right? It can be nature, it can be with your car that you're driving, it can be with the school assignment. It's all about, focusing on the solution and not the problem, and do problem solving, So, and I'm always challenged by things. I'm always challenging myself to, improve and do problem solving.
That's the number one thing drilled into our heads in college. At least that's what it has been for me. They're like, a lot of professors will say, you can do the coursework and you can do all right, but I mean, if you're not a problem solver, it's why are you here? You know what I mean? It's what an engineer is by definition is problem solver, and computer science the same way. But the computer engineering is more connected to like that hardware part of solving problems. And it's hard, but there's nothing like it, right? Once you solve a problem.
Right. It's like this. You ask a politician, politicians always ask these questions. Who are my friends, right? Who are on my side, right? Who's on my side? Engineers ask themselves the question, okay, how can we make this more efficient? How can we build this more efficient? Right?
Smaller, more efficient.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cheaper, exactly. And then computer scientists ask themselves, well, how can we solve this problem with technology? How can we make these people's lives easier with technology, So it's about helping people solve their problems with technology.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Totally agree. But you ended up landing a pretty cool gig at Liberty Mutual, right?
Yes, I got myself a internship at Liberty Mutual in summer of 2020.
So do you want to talk a little bit about the program that helped you out?
Yes, for sure. Yes, I do want to talk about Hack Diversity. Hack Diversity is a program that helps minorities like Latinos and Blacks. They help them build a professional profile, and it's a program that helps people like minorities to get an internship on the fastest growing technology field in Boston.
Right.
So they help you, build your professional profile like LinkedIn. They, give you a mentor who is also, in the technology field. They, give you an assignments. You have to do some writing. You have to do a hackathon. They call
What's
it. The hackathon is like a technology problem that you have to solve. A real hackathon is a technology problem that you have to solve with technology in 2 days. But with Hack Diversity, they do a de-hackathon, which is a deconstructive hackathon. And they separate the hackathon into 4 months, right? So you start the program in January. So you have January, February, March, and April. So you do that program for 4 months, and no, you do the hackathon for 4 months, okay, instead of 2 days. So you get a lot of preparation to solve a problem, and you can put on your resume. And the nice about the program as well is that they prepare you for interviews, right? So you get all these host companies that they have, so you can get internships with them. And in my case, I was able to get an internship with Liberty Mutual, and I worked in the summer of 2020 with the DevOps AWS team throughout the summer. So
that's Amazon Web Services.
Yeah, well, yeah. So I work with the Amazon Web Services team from Liberty Mutual, which is the cloud technology, which was a great learning experience. There's a lot of Java coding.
Yeah. Java's your thing now, right?
Yeah, I really like Java, yeah.
What do you like about Java? Is it the syntax? Is that just your first language, or?
Well, it was my first language, so I'm more comfortable with Java. And it's just the syntax, it's the method writing, and it's the organization of the language, and it's just beauty. You don't have to collect trash, right? Like C++, it does all that
data leaks and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to worry about memory issues, right? Java does all that in the background for you, so that gives me more room just to code and get creative with coding. Yeah.
You coded a pretty cool game, right, that you showed me?
Yes.
And it was basically, 4 dots or something that were fighting?
Yes, exactly.
And how long did that take you?
Well, it took a long time.
So you want to explain kind of what the program did? Or?
Yeah, so the program was was a fighting game, right? And it was using, it was an assignment from school using hash maps. So you had to create a lot of, I don't know if you know a hash map in Java.
Not in Java, but general idea.
Yeah, you have a general idea of a hash map, or you have a key and a value. Yeah, so it's a pair of keys and values, right? So, and we created a game where we have a bunch of rooms, and a bunch of circles would fight with each other, and which involve Java animations. And eventually we get a winner from each room, and then we were rounding up eventually to the final round where they would fight, and then we have a winner. So
this was all being animated on the computer too. It's not just code running through, right? It's showing you what's going on. And so I'm curious as to what were the characteristics that defined one circle would get the better of the other circle and win that room.
So each player would have some type of weapons, and the weapons were randomly associated. And you have a knife, you had what if I can remember correctly, gun. You could also use your hands. And there was also probability involved in hitting those. The player could defend, and you had your health that was displayed, right? So you would fight with each other based on probability, and you would decrease the health of the other person, or you would attack, or you would defend, and then those are all randomized, and eventually you would have arena. So it was basically just an idea to demonstrate the data structure visually to the class, because this was a data structure class that we were taking at Mass Bay. And so the idea was to do this do this as a graphic, user interface for the user to see, the data structure live.
Yeah.
And as well as to demonstrate, like a fighting game.
I thought it was really cool when you showed us. I didn't know there was weapons and stuff involved, but no, that's definitely really cool. How long did that take? I don't know if you said it already.
No, I didn't say that, but that was, I think, let me see if I can remember correctly. That was done in a month, and I remember I was partnering up with another partner. However, it got to a point that the code got so complicated that he got to a point that the code, he got to a point that the code was so complicated that he couldn't keep up with it. So
was he paying attention in the class and stuff?
He was, but I think he was just working too much. I mean, people have their difficulties. He was working in a restaurant as a waiter,
okay.
so he was probably doing
Nights and stuff.
Yeah, nights and stuff, 30 to 40 hours per week. So, with coding, you need time. You cannot just sit around for 1 hour. You think you're gonna get something done. You need a long time of creative thinking. Creative time. Long hours to solve the problem. Okay, you can take breaks, but you need long periods of time to do this kind of work. And I think he couldn't make that available, so I ended up doing most of the work.
That's horrible, but it's a reality of college in a way. There's always that one person in the group that either does very little or nothing at all, and they end up graduating. I wonder where those people end up in the job market. You know what I mean? I wonder if they get hired in 2 weeks. Everybody's like, but no, that's definitely something. I don't know how you would. The only way in my mind is how to weed those people out is to test heavily in the first 2 years of college, like test on an individual basis very rigorously. So then when come junior and senior year and you start working on projects and stuff, you've basically mostly weeded those people out. But I don't know, there's still going to be somebody that makes it through those first 2 years and is still going to do nothing for whatever reason. It's not just out of laziness, like you said. I mean, it could be out of work or they have something going on in their life, but definitely sucks for the other group.
Yeah, but on the other hand, it's nice to work with people that you don't know, that you were assigned to. And the good side on that is because you have the ability to work with other people, and having that skill to collaborate with someone that you don't know can all be applied when you transition to your professional career. Because when you work with other people, you need to learn how to work with them. And that means by, improving your communication skills, improving your collaborative skills, and as well as, having some empathy for that person. Even though I did, like I said, on the data structures program, I did the most of the work by myself, but I had to, communicate with others. And it was a struggle with this person because he was not interested as I was. However, I kept the ball rolling. I kept working, even though he didn't put as much effort as I did. But on the other hand, I can't judge him. I wish he had put the same effort as I did, and the project would turn out much better. But the good side is that when you work with somebody and the person is not doing the best job, you have to, step up and find a solution to, how can I best work with this person? How can I overcome this challenge of working with someone that you don't know, you never met him, you're just learning to work with that person. I think that's a great skill to have, and you can apply that to your professional life.
Definitely. Yeah, you're right. I mean, there is going to be people when you get a full-time job and something's going to happen in their life and they're not going to be there as much as you want them to be, collaborating on solving a problem or whatever. And like you said before, you or I said, just roll with the punches, and if you're kind of used to rolling with the punches, it's just another punch, you know what I mean? But someone who's always complaining and never done that before, when they're truly faced with a challenging problem, especially in computer science, you know how irritating a syntax error can be, right? Like forgetting a semicolon in, I don't know, somewhere, and if you're not in the right, IDEs have, like PyCharm have made it very easy for syntax and stuff like that, but I don't know, I programmed in R once. Maybe because I haven't taken a course before in R before, and the syntax was very different. It was hard to get past, hello world. You know what I mean? Just printing out that, and it made me appreciate more something like PyCharm or Visual Studio Code, which really aids you in coding. But I mean, how do you feel about Visual Studio Code and things like PyCharm? Do you think it hurts the developer relying on the IDE to help them program, or?
I think to begin, for a computer science student to begin, I think it's best to start with a text editor in a terminal, to write your code in the text editor and compile it in the terminal. That way, you're not jumping into a race car, right? You're learning how to drive, and you're learning how to drive a normal car. And then once you have that experience, you can go and jump into a race car. This is the analogy that I use because at Mass Bay, I remember when I was programming Java, I used Dr. Java, which is a IDE that it was very minimal. However, I wish I had started with a text editor in a terminal. That way, I could pay attention to that semicolon that you always forget and you're trying to find, or that curly brace where you forget to open or either close. However, I recommend that once a student develops that skill to write code and pay attention to these details, jumping into an IDE that helps him, he will be much better because he already knows about all these, and then he doesn't rely on the IDE to catch all these errors. And also get into the habit of looking at the code before hitting the compile, see if I have anything wrong, or just compile, and you're relying too much on the IDE to do all the work for you.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me how a lot of people don't realize the exams at first, and at least in my application programming class in C and also in C++ data structures, it's on paper. So when that first happened, I'm just thinking to myself, as a sophomore, how are we're gonna write, quote unquote, write code on paper? And like you're saying, if you've been coding with something like Sublime Text or Atom text editor and running it on the terminal, you're used to that. You're used to looking at your code and saying, how does this look? But if all you're using is Visual Studio Code, PyCharm, compile, when it comes to the written test, that's not going to work because you can't even compile once.
Exactly.
So I don't know. What did you think? Do you agree or disagree with I've talked to a lot of people, and most people that I talk to disagree with writing it on paper only. But I'm curious to see what you think.
Well, my approach, I agree with writing on paper first, especially the algorithm. I don't say necessarily, write the code in full, with the details of the syntax, or, in terms of Java, you're opening and closing the brackets and putting semicolons. But I mean, just writing plain English, the algorithm, what you intend to do. And then from there, you can do a little bit of coding on paper, just what you intend to do, and then transfer that into the coding, because that involves more syntax. You got to worry about some parentheses, in terms of Python, your indentation, and once you have that plan, and then coding makes much more easier. It's like it's like that analogy. You spend more time sharpening your knife, you're eventually gonna be able to do the job faster. So I agree, and I feel writing code this way. Plan the algorithm, plan what you tend to do, and then jump into coding.
Yeah, I definitely agree when you said understanding a certain algorithm to write it out in plain English and really dive deep into what is the algorithm doing. I can write up some code and implement what the professor wants, but do I understand what's going on? That definitely transfers over to mathematics too. You can memorize equations for days, but if you don't understand what's going on behind the scenes, when you get to Calc 3 is when it all ties together, right? Yeah, that's what. Calc 1, it was like, what's going on? Calc 2, this is super hard. What's going on? Calc 3, oh, right?
There we go.
It's everything. Everything you've learned your whole entire life in school where, you're wondering in 7th and 8th grade, why am I doing this? What does this have to do with anything I'm going to do later on in life? Ties together in Calculus 3. And it's the first time, at least, we're talking about multivariable calculus, that I did, 3-dimensional mathematics. It's always been on a 2-dimensional plane in the second dimension. So it was really cool I felt like we were actually learning something we could apply to the real world. Not saying you can't apply 2-dimensional things. There's millions of applications for those kinds of things, but I don't know. What did you think about Calculus 3? And you feel the same? Or
in my case, I didn't actually do Calc 3. However, I did linear algebra 1 and 2. So, with linear algebra, you have all these vocabulary that is completely new to the math. You have these fancy words such as vector spaces. You have, all this new vocabulary.
Feature vectors.
Yeah, and it's like you're learning math as well as mathlish. You have to know.
I like that. It's a new language. It is a new language.
It's a completely new language. I mean, there's a lot of vocabulary, a lot of terms in linear algebra. So I went to that route because I was interested in machine learning, and linear algebra is used extensively on machine learning. So I didn't do Calc 3. However, I mean, I can still learn it if I want to.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
But I graduated from Umass Lowell with a minor in mathematics. But I decided to go on the linear algebra path instead.
Yeah, I think it's a better path, especially for what you're doing. You, for your capstone, right? You did a bit of machine learning, I think?
I did, for my final project, or capstone, and for Umass Lowell, I did artificial intelligence and machine learning as my final project.
Wow. How was that?
It was great. It was awesome. And for artificial intelligence, I collaborated in the project to write, to have a machine write poems based on a data set that was given to us. So for artificial intelligence, I collaborated in a project that I collaborated with some friends from school, that we created a poem generator based on Markov chains, which involved linear algebra, that was generating new poems based on a data set that we had.
So it's eventually going to write its own poems. And what kind of poems? Did it have a theme, or like Shakespearean, or?
Yeah, we had a data set where you have some Renaissance poems, we have modern poems, we have modern love, modern nature, we have the Renaissance love, Renaissance literature. So there was some Shakespeare. However, we could also write poems we can give how many lines we want the poems to have, like 3 lines, 4 lines, but the more lines that you would put, the less accurate the poem would be. We did a great job in terms of writing the poems, but of course, there's also some limitations when you do these school projects, because there's a limited time, and you're also learning. But eventually, we were able to generate poems based on the data set that we have. So it was pretty nice to learn artificial intelligence and creating the algorithm ourselves to generate the poems. It's one thing you're using a library to do that.
Yeah,
that is pre-built.
You just plug in a data, like a BERT model, or you just plug in any old data set, and
exactly, and it generates for you. You use some machine learning techniques. However, we created our own algorithm to generate these poems. So it was quite satisfying to us.
Yeah, I think it's a little cool and funny. At least anybody that likes computer science is someone could read a poem that inspires them, and it wasn't even written by a human in the first place.
Yeah, it's important if the data set is clean, if you have good data, because your agent, your program is, getting the data. And if the data is clean and the data is well organized, then you can output better results. I think one problem that we had was that we were repeating some words, and when we cleaned the words, they were not, we were missing some letters, or it was a space that, all the little details that could, make the poems doesn't look like it was, how can I say, like a real poem. But there was some little mistakes on the words, but then you could see that they were generating poems. So that was, we accomplished our goal with the class, and we also learned some artificial intelligence techniques.
That's awesome. How much of your time involved finding the data and structuring the data to test and train?
So in this part of the project, I was contribute to the data. So basically, I was grabbing the data and running Python scripts to clean the data and clean, unwanted data from, for example, cleaning periods and tabs and spaces and all of that, just cleaning the data. And even sometimes I would have to manually do it as well. For example, I wanted to create just modern love poems, modern nature poems. So I use a lot of Python scripts to do that. And the time that I took was a huge amount of time. I would say that we'd spent about, the whole team spent about 2 months on this project, but I contribute to, I would say, to 50 hours.
Wow.
40, 50 hours of my time on this project. And I think that's a lot of hours when you are, going to college.
Was that over the course of 2 semesters you were cleaning the data? Or?
This was over the course of 1 semester.
That's crazy. I think a lot of people forget how much of your time has to be dedicated to structuring and cleaning your data set before get into all that advanced stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, and that's one thing about computer science. If you want to get a computer science degree, you have to put in the time. You have to be able to sit down on your chair and do the work. And like I said before, any creative work, you need a long time to think. You need a very extensive time to program, and code and think, come back, take a break, get up and come back again and do more work. So if someone wants to be a computer science, they have to be willing to put the time. There's no other way around.
If you had to give a high school student some advice and they're going into their freshman year for computer science, what would it be?
If I were to give a high school student advice to start a computer science degree, I would say learn math, be good at math, because math will help you code better, because math is about algorithms. When you learn when you learn how to solve a math problem, you're also learning a algorithm step by step, and that applies to computer science. I also would give an advice to, start learning some coding projects, because that can help you be more familiar with code. And once you're familiar with code, or just being the feeling of sitting down and doing some program, that's going to help you a lot when you get to college and when you have the assignments that you really have to put in the time, sit down and do the work.
Yeah, I think a lot of people underestimate how, you can do coding boot camps and learn in the classroom all day, but in my opinion, you have to work on your own projects from start to finish. You know what I mean? To really learn. At least in my opinion, that's what always helped me, is working on my own project. Although the theory and stuff in the classroom is definitely necessary, but There's nothing like I know a lot of people that I've talked to have said the same thing that I've said, is I've learned more in my 3-month internship than I have in my entire 4 years of college. You know what I mean? Just working on real life problems and projects and stuff like that. If you had to name any downsides or the negative parts of computer science for those high school kids, what would it be? What did you dislike the most?
Well, what I dislike the most is that, you have to be looking at a screen for long periods of time. And when you look at a long screen for a long period of time, and you can get eye strains, you can, when you're sitting down too much, you can look like a chair, Your
body collapses on itself.
Yeah, your shoulder, rolls off, and you kind of like have that arch, right? You're like an old person, and you're like walking with a cane.
A librarian.
So, yeah, so it's important to be aware of those side effects. But of course, you can do stretching, you can hang from a bar, you can do exercise, you can. The idea is, okay, you're going to be sitting down on the computer for a long time, so it's important that you also exercise and you stretch your body and you take eye strain breaks, because when you're looking at a computer for a long period of time and you're trying to solve this problem because you have to submit that assignment, or if you're in a professional career, you have to show up work that you're delivering that work because you're getting paid for. So, you're going to do all what you can to submit your assignment, and it's going to be a time that you're going to have eye strains. Maybe you're 8 and you're not moving around and you're feeling bloated.
Has it affected your memory, your short-term memory? Seriously, it has.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Being on a computer for 12 hours a day consistently.
Yes.
It's like overstimulation.
Yes, because you're overstimulating your eyes, your brain, and those are the downside of being in front of the computer. And also, mind training 101, right? You can easily get distracted when using a computer because you have your browser. Sometimes you go on YouTube and to search for a solution, end up watching a different video.
Their algorithms, so they know who you are.
Exactly. So yeah, exactly. So the YouTube algorithm knows you. And now those are the downsides of being sitting down on the computer. So it requires a lot of motivation and determination to sit down on the computer and do work. And there are things that you can do to overcome these, such as getting up, doing breaks, exercising, hanging from a bar, or just hanging your body, to give that stretch on your spine, and also meditation, because meditation, helps. When you meditate every day, when you know that you are distracted, you can easily, get back to focus. So when you're doing an assignment, for example, but you have practice with meditation, then when you notice you're distracted, you can easily get back to the tasks that you're doing. So I highly recommend somebody that's, anybody who's studying and learning, and, it really helps, get back to focus and get back to your tasks and start working what's important for you.
I remember that you used to meditate before our exams because there was a meditation room at U Crossing, right, where we used to study. And it's definitely a good idea that I never would have thought about. Do you actually feel like it helped you before the exam? I remember we overstudied that one time.
Yes.
And seriously, overstudying can... I kind of think the same thing, the kids that stay up all night and study, doesn't work. And the same thing with just overstudying in general. Once you get to the exam, you can't really think. You're so tired because the exam was at, 6 p.m.? Something like that.
Right.
How much do you feel that meditating for 15, 20 minutes before helped you out?
Well, for me at Umass Lowell, when I found out that the Serenity Center, that's what it was called.
Right.
And it was just a room, empty room. There was some rugs there. I think there was a few pillows where you can just grab and sit down and meditate. There was nobody there. Mm-hmm. I even slept there because I was so tired from commuting. But most of the times I would go in there, before an exam, I would meditate for 15, 20 minutes and just do a guided meditation, with the Headspace app. It's like free for a student. Oh, it's like $9.99 per year for a student. So I don't see why a student would not jump into that. So I would use, Headspace app to meditate before an exam, and that helped me clear my mind, clear all those thoughts, the anxiety, the fear of failing, the fear of forgetting, because you can study a lot of days, but then on the exam, if you're anxious, you're probably going to forget what you learned. And being calm before the exam really helped me get through the exam. I mean, I got 100, but hey, at least I was able to knock that exam down and pass.
Yeah, it's much different than high school when thousands of dollars are on the line for the course if you fail, and the professor there's hundreds of kids in the taking the exam, so they don't know you personally. So they are very helpful, but if you fail, you know what they're going to say when you go to their office hours and try to get some extra points. It's going to be a big no. I don't know. It definitely affected me. I got used to it later on, but that test anxiety, that's why I was wondering.
Yes, I remember when one day we at University Crossing from Umass Lowell, we had a logic design exam, and I think the exam was like 6 p.m. and we studied until like 5:45 or something,
Yep.
or we just studied enough just so we had time to walk from U Crossing to the North Campus.
About 15 minutes. Yeah.
Then when we got to the test, we were already burned out.
That was horrible.
Yeah.
I think I got did I get like a C or something?
Yeah.
We finished off the course with an A.
Yes.
But a lot of people don't know. I don't know about you. I've failed an exam before at the beginning of the semester, but you just have to learn from that. But I think that was one of the reasons I got a C or a C minus. Something like that is because, we studied until 15 minutes before, and then we're going to take this 2-hour exam. Your brain is definitely a muscle, and it gives out after a certain period of time.
Yeah, so breaks are very important, and and it can be anything. For example, if you're studying from home, it can be maybe patting your pet, for example, or just listen to some music, whatever. I mean, I personally like to meditate, but anything that you can take a break, walk off, just take a break from that subject. And then when you walk back again, you have that more energy because your mind is rest and your mind is clear, and you walk in and you can perform better. That's how I view these problems.
Yeah, and I think you're right with the pet thing, because I know they did this at UMass Dartmouth. They would bring in baby bunnies and stuff like that, so you could hold them and pet them, and it was for a stress relief. They'd also bring in puppies some days, but yeah, that's definitely I'm allergic to dogs and cats.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know what I'd get. Maybe I can get a gnarly spider or something, carry it on my shoulder.
That's right.
Pet it when. What would you say was your most favorite course at UMass Lowell? It can even be psychology or philosophy. And after that, what was the course that you hated the most and you hope you never have to take it again?
So my favorite course at UMass Lowell, let me think about it. My favorite course was American politics. It was amazing. I mean, it was not a computer science course, but I walked into the course and it was like this huge, auditorium, and the professor was a great speaker, man. It was just awesome to hear the lecture, you know. And I would walk in, and it was like very good conversations about politics, and I didn't know nothing about either liberals and conservatives, so it was all new stuff to me that I enjoyed. And it was something that it opened my mind about the political world. So I think it was one of my favorite classes at UMass Lowell, because I had a great speaker, and it was in person. It was not in Zoom class or whatever. You could react to the class.
Feed off everybody else's energy.
Exactly. So that was a great class to me. And the class that I hated the most was let's see. It was a math class. It was mostly because of the professor.
Are we talking about the walking textbook?
Yes, that's right. That was a class that I hated the most because, the professor didn't have that energy and relied too much on the textbook to learn. Of course, I think the responsibility is for the student. Mm-hmm. If the professor is not doing a good job, you can't blame the professor. You got to do the work on your own. But I hated the class because the grading was heavily only on the exams, and it was like 10% only the homework and everything else was just exams. So if you fail an exam, pretty much you screw up your chances to get an A in the class or B. And then if you keep failing the exams, then you have no chances of passing. So for me, that was the worst class that I had. But I was there every day. I was showing up to office hours. I was trying, but hey, man, I just couldn't do it. But I overcome that by taking with another professor. And even though I struggle with it, but I passed with a C+. But from F to a C+, that's a great improvement, right? So
100%. So yeah, the last thing I definitely wanted to talk to you about is Brazilian Jiu Jitsu.
Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, huh?
So, what made you first step in there and get that white belt?
So I remember I was working at TD Bank, and I was taking physics at Mass Bay, and the owner of the gym, Samuel Almeida, walked in and made a deposit with me at the bank, and then say, "Hey, I'm opening a gym, a jiu-jitsu gym, this thing, you should come check it out." And I was like, all right, I'll come check it out, your gym, but I have a physics, exam next day, so I can only stay for 30 minutes. I was like, all right, I'll come to the gym. But just to give a context to Samuel Almeida, the owner of the gym, I know his brother and him since I was little, since I was 14 years old. So they were always involved in martial arts, but I never was interested in martial arts. But I knew the owner for a long time before. So he came in and invited me, and here I am going to the jiu-jitsu gym. But before I said to him that I was going to the jiu-jitsu gym, I asked him, "Hey, do you have capoeira at your gym? Because I want to do capoeira."
What's that?
Capoeira is a different different martial arts from Brazil. Mm-hmm. That involves a lot of dancing, and there's some movement and choreography, and there's like handstands, and it's like a different martial arts than jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu, you're fighting your opponent, right? Mm-hmm. Capoeira is more like a choreography, and you're like a dance, and people are playing music, they gather around, and you use a lot of strength because you're doing handstands and whatnot. So I was interested in capoeira, but he said they had jiu-jitsu. So I was like, all right, I'll go try jiu-jitsu for half an hour. So here I am at this gym, and it's beautiful. It's like all this white mat and, these white walls. And, I tried jiu-jitsu for that day for 1 hour and 30 minutes. I stayed more than an hour that I could because it was so addictive. It's nice. You put this kimono on, you put there's two types of jiu-jitsu. There's gi and no gi. Mm-hmm. When I try with the gi, which is more formal, or it's traditional jiu-jitsu, where you have the uniform where you put your pants and then you put the gi and then you tie your belt. So you feel empowered and humbled on this uniform that you used to fight. Mm-hmm. So I got very addicted to it, and I remember I was working very little at that time, and I couldn't afford, and the owner gave me a nice deal because they were just opening, and I took the deal, man, and I'm still there. You know.
So you're onto your blue belt now, right?
Yes, I'm onto my blue belt now.
And how long does that take?
So in order to get your blue belt, you need so when you have your white belt, you need 4 stripes. So to get your 4 stripes, and then on the 5th stripe you get your blue belt, right? So in order to get 1 stripe on your belt, you need 30 classes.
Wow.
So those are 30 classes, right? And that's 1 stripe. So you need 4 stripes, and on the 5th stripe you get your blue belt. Okay, and once you get that blue belt,
So that's 120 classes.
exactly,
That's a long time.
yeah. So that's 120 hours, because each class is 1 hour. That's if you don't forget to sign in that day, then your class is
don't
going to
get
get
it.
logged. So there's that. And in Jiu-Jitsu it's amazing because it's like a connection with the mind and body. And for those of who don't know what Jiu-Jitsu is, according to John Danaher, which is a pioneer in Jiu-Jitsu, Jiu-Jitsu is a 4-step system. Okay, so of course, it's a fighting. You have there's no punches or kicks, but there's a lot of grappling involved.
Submissions.
Yeah, submissions, right? So the first step is to immobilize your opponent, right? Bring it to the ground, right? You're fighting with someone, you bring it to the ground. Because when you bring that person to the ground, you eliminated the person to have that, to throw you a punch, right? Or, you eliminated that kinetic energy that someone can give you. It's like, they get a horse. What they do, they put the horse down, because the horse cannot kick you anymore, right? If the horse kick you while he's laying down on the ground, it's not going to be so much damage. Same thing is with Jiu-Jitsu. When you throw somebody in the ground, you eliminated that kinetic energy that the person can generate when he's going to hit you with a punch. So that's step number 1 on Jiu-Jitsu. Step number 2, you want to pass your opponent's legs. Why you want to pass your opponent's legs? Because your opponent can still kick you with his legs and break your knees. So you want to pass his legs, or they say, pass the guard, right?
Right.
So you pass the opponent's guard, and then you mobilize the opponent, right? And then that's step number 2. And then step number 3 is also what I just said, is you want to pin down your opponent on the ground. You want to control it, right? Because after you pass his legs, you want to control your opponent. And once you control your opponent on the ground, you have to control the situation. Your opponent you're controlling your opponent. And then comes step number 4, where you do for the submission, which can be deadly effective.
Yeah, that's probably the worst position you could be in when watching the UFC and mixed martial arts, is passing the legs or full mount, right?
Exactly.
That's what they call it.
Right.
That's where a lot of fights get finished.
Exactly. So, and it's just amazing to be on the mat, right? To walk in on a jiu-jitsu, a training day. You walk in and you do a warm up and you learn the technique, and then you get like some minutes to fight with your opponent. And when you're actually fighting, you're really fighting, because if you don't resist, that person is going to submit you, or it's going to dominate you. So your mind, you're in that flight or fight mode, where you're fighting, for your life. Of course, it's just that you can tap out, and then you start over again. But it's just that feeling of survival, which is pretty awesome. I think everyone should try jiu-jitsu.
Is it a humbling experience after training for an hour of jiu-jitsu and knowing your own skills? And the vast majority of the population does not have Brazilian jiu-jitsu skills. You know what I mean? So
it's a humbling experience when you win a fight. You bow and you shake your hands opponent, and when you tap, you raise your head up and you try again. So jiu-jitsu teaches you that, and it's they call it arte suave, which translated to smooth art. because it is an art. You can have many possibilities what you can do. It's like that mind. You have to be thinking what you're gonna do next, reacting, and also moving your body. To do that position that you want to accomplish. Either it is mounting, passing the guard, or doing a joint lock or a strangle. For submission.
That's awesome. What's your favorite submission so far?
So my favorite submission that I go for the most it's the arm lock.
What's that?
Well, so
like an arm bar or something?
Yeah, it's like an arm bar, right? So what happens is that I'm really like to go past the opponent's guard and go on knee on belly, put my knee on their belly, and pin them down, and then go for mount position, dominate it, and then switch to our arm bar and then submit. So that's my go-to submission.
That's awesome. Definitely sounds really cool. So I don't know if you said it. How long do you think it took you to get those 120 classes to move on to your blue belt?
So it took me about a year and a half, or about 1 year and a half to 2 years. I'm not sure exactly. I have to look my notes. But it depends how much you go as well, right? It depends how much. It depends how many times you go to the jiu-jitsu class. So for me, that I was going to college every day and I was commuting, I didn't go every day. I would go twice a week, at most 3 times a week, compared to my friend Ovi Truta, who started the same day as me. Ovi is already on his purple belt.
Wow.
And I'm still on my blue belt. But because Ovi goes from Monday through Saturday, then that's because Sunday the gym is not open. Otherwise, he would go there.
Sounds very addicting.
Yeah, and just to give a note, who's Ovi? Ovi is also a jiu-jitsu practitioner, but he was my a fitness and health mentor. And Ovi is over 50 years, and he started jiu-jitsu at the same time as me. But he's in such a great shape that he does jiu-jitsu every day.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for coming on. Is there anything else you wanted to say?
Well, I just want to say that I'm very pleased to be here and sharing the experience. And man, it's nice talking and sharing, this to the world so people can, appreciate and use this as an experience. Take jiu-jitsu, taking it as an experiment, see if it works out for you.
Worst that could happen is you do it once and you don't like it.
Exactly. So that take life as a scientific experiment. Experiment everything. And I think that's my philosophy, right? What I do is I find something that I'm interested on, it, such as suppose jiu-jitsu, right, or a different diet, whatever it is, and then try it out and see how it is, and then take an experiment with that, and if it works out for you, go for it. And that's my philosophy. That's what I do. I take something like jiu-jitsu, I experiment it, I liked it, and I'm still doing it. That's awesome, man. Thanks again for coming on. And any last words? Oh, thank you, Ryan, for giving me the opportunity. Yeah, man. Thanks for coming. And this is when we start the conversation. We never stop the conversation. I like that. That's awesome. I have nothing else to say on my end. Thanks for coming on. See you, everybody.